What is your opinion on power with the older adults?
With the older adults?
Think they need it?
They need it, but I would say strength on that.
What's up?
Power would be something I would do after they've been strengthened.
Agreed, for sure.
Everybody needs it. The older you get, the more decreases too.
For sure. I think if anybody, the older adults needs it more than normal people, right? Because of the fact that they just don't trust themselves confidence-wise, right? We really think that power creates confidence for anybody, but especially the older adult, right? It really helps with coordination. It's just things that we see that helps out, right? It helps the mind a lot when you can coordinate to be able to jump, right? Muscle strength definitely increases your strength just by creating power, because you're creating coordination and then creating to be able to do it quickly. And we balance, so coordination, balance, same thing. It also increases one big plus about power and strength training is that it increases bone density stimulus, right? And that's a big one. As people get older, start losing bone density. It's been proven that we really can make up bone density, but what we can try and do is maintain it. Our goal is to maintain that bone density they already have. Obviously, if somebody's very, very osteoporotic, you want to be careful how much stuff do you do loaded, because if somebody falls over, they can break their bones. So it might be something that they always do assisted, but they're still going to do it. And we're going to show you that version of it. In a lot of real life situations, we need power, right? Like picking up food, picking up your foot, going past the curb. That's gonna be like a quick, oh shit, like, right? And step down hard. That's a power movement. Or jumping over a puddle, a slight puddle, right? Catching your balance fast, like I'm gonna trip over, and doing this one is also power. It's a quick, right? Okay, so talking about what you just said, what would be a good baseline? When would you decide to start somebody after how strong they are? Is there something that you heard about that? It's the reason you said it, right?
The reason I said it, that's what now.
So like, what would be a good baseline? Is there even a good baseline?
That's it, if they have a pretty decent balance.
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so could you not do assisted power if they don't have balance yet? You could, right? So that's a hard one. There is no answer to that. I can't tell you, oh yeah, no, once they can get 30% of their weight on goblet squat, we can start them in power. There's nothing like that. You're right, it's more like by seeing, it's subjective. I'm sorry, it's subjective or objective. Which was the one, what's objective?
It depends on the client, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is like, what's subjective compared to objective? Define it for me again, I forget.
Subjective is the subject, so it's more.
So, wait, which was the one with like clear defined lines? Objective or subjective?
Defined lines?
Objective, right? Subjective is what I think. Objective is like a clear constraint.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. I forgot. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of it is subjective. When we think that client could do it, when we hope that they can do it, we can only try and see if it happens. And the first time we try, we have to coach it very assisted, very next to them, see how they feel with it. We do tend to coach it a lot. In terms of when it comes, it doesn't really matter. We don't usually introduce it the first month for sure. We wait until like 2 or 3 months down the line where they can at least learn how to squat at that point. Because if you can't learn how to squat, I can't teach you how to jump, right? So at least learn how to squat. You don't have to learn how to lunge, but I can teach you how to squat, right? So the thing subjectively we look at is the endurance there. Okay, if I put it in the beginning of the session, would that crush them for the rest of the time? Or if I put it at the end of the session, would that be too much because their legs are shot? So, you know what I mean? Like, you have to think about that. Let's see, is the confidence there? A big one is the confidence. If they have all the strength in the world and they can squat 30-pound goblet squats already, I think they could. But if they walk around and look like they're gonna fall over, or they'll tell you, I'm falling over to my right, and you can't even know, I probably wouldn't have them jump without anybody assisting, that's for sure. Right? So confidence has to be there too. That's one thing that on paper, you don't see it. Like, I can assign somebody because they can do it based on paper. Oh my God, they look so strong. But the confidence might not be there. They might tell you, hey, I'm not ready to jump. And that's okay. You have to obviously have to get them ready. Have to tell them the benefits of jumping so they can start wanting to jump. Baseline strength. There's not really a baseline strength. We want to make sure they have the capability of doing it. And another one big one is injuries on joints prior. Like, have they had a lot of replacements? And even if they do, we still push them, but we have to be more careful about it. They used to play basketball and roll their ankles all the time. That's probably gonna be a lot of scar tissue in their ankles all the time, right? So it's probably gonna be more uncomfortable. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it. It just means that we have to be aware of that, right? Maybe a lot less volume, 5 to 8 reps instead of 10 to 20, right? Yeah, if you have arthritis in the hips, knees, or ankles in a jump, or if you have arthritis in your hand, your elbow, your shoulder, it's gonna affect you from doing any kind of power stuff. Right? You're gonna feel it, but the thing is, like, you shouldn't stop because you have arthritis, right? You have to push that client to keep going and keep doing it. Yeah, it's gonna be a little painful. Hey, it's gonna be a little painful if it's less than a level 3 out of 10. We're gonna keep pushing it. That's my goal. That's what I always say. Okay, so the next question is, how do you do it safely? What kind of assistance do you need? Let's say somebody has vertigo, right? So if somebody has vertigo, no matter what, you almost should have them always hanging on something or sitting down, right? So you're like, hey, when you're standing up, I'm gonna get equipment, hang on to this rack. You don't wanna leave them alone. You wanna make sure you stay it, right? Same thing when you're jumping. As soon as you start, right before you start, and when you're done, hang on to the rack. That way, if they're falling over, they can still be there. But safety is number one thing on power. You want to make sure that client's going to be safe and is staying within safe bounds, right? I'm going to go over that. And if you have no idea, if something looks a little sketchy, obviously I'm not going to have a client box jump probably. You know what I mean? That's a different story. But I'm going to go over all kinds of power. Just know that probably the first few are the ones we're going to do for all the clients, not all of them, right? Let's see, okay, 1 second. We can always do different things to tailor it to that client. Let's say somebody has vertigo, right? How can I still produce upper body power if somebody has vertigo? So somebody can't stand still because they feel really wobbly. I can have them sit down. So I can have them sit down and do chest presses with the ball. I can sit down and do slams. I can sit down and do rotational slams. I can sit down and rotate against the wall, right? So everything's sitting down. I can take that safety factor out of it, that vertigo factor. There's always a way of constructing around that, right? Let's see. So yeah, once the strength, balance, and pain are in check, that's when we want to be able, and we have a good communication with that client. That's when we can start building a little bit of power work, right? If they don't trust us yet, I wouldn't do power work. If they're still a little sketchy, I wouldn't do power work. If you don't trust them to be able, or if you don't feel comfortable cueing that exercise, I wouldn't do power, right? If you don't trust them on their own, like for a second, I wouldn't do power, unless you have that time to be there all the time, right? Okay, so knowing all this, power is essential, that's what we believe. Let's go over all the power exercises. So, the first one we're gonna start, we teach everybody, is this, and it obviously depends on balance, but it's a straight leg dyna slam. So I'm gonna just have my legs locked out. I'm gonna teach them how to use my shoulders and hands to lock out, right? So hey, I'm gonna start with grabbing the outsides of the ball. I'm gonna extend my hands. I'm gonna reach and try to, not bending my legs, hit it as hard as I can against the floor. And then grab it, catch it again as you're going up. So the first one that this does is teaches coordination on the shoulders, elbows, and hands. The other thing I can cue on is as you're gonna go slam down, flick your wrist at the end. Right? Flick your wrist at the end and you're gonna get that extra pop. A lot of people, it's gonna look like this in the beginning. Right? It's always gonna look like this, right? Don't expect everybody to look like I just did. You're gonna have to explain that over and over again because you have to get them to produce that amount of force right away. A lot of people are like, I want you to slam it harder. So people don't even know what that means. So like the way I describe it is like, I want you to make that noise louder, right? The noise helps because of this. It's a different noise than this, right? It's a lot louder. Yeah, that's the second one. The second one is, hey, I want you to be able to catch it right in front of you than having to get down to it, especially this ball that bounces. So arms are gonna go up straight and you're gonna try to hit it right in front of you. If you hit it over there, it's gonna bounce away from you. So you wanna try to hit it right between your legs. So I wanna have slightly spread out legs so I can maybe try to get it in between my legs, right? A lot of people are gonna be over there and I have to go get it, right? So if you can teach them to throw it closer towards them, they're gonna be scared. But if you can teach them to throw it closer towards them, it'll bounce back towards them. Another thing that a lot of times I see is people, they can't control where they let go, the release angle, right? The exit velocity. They can't control if it goes over there or down here. So what I try to do is like, I want you to grip it for a little bit longer, right? I want you to grip it for a little bit longer so it shoots right below you, right? If not, it's gonna go right over there, even though I meant to go here, right? That's the easiest one. Doesn't have to look like power in the beginning, but we want to be able to start coaching each week to be harder and harder. Hey, I try to coach him like make a floor to that wall, make a floor to the floor, right? I wanna be able to fix that wall. I want you to be the first person to pop that ball open, right? Somehow make them feel like they need to pop that ball. The more they pop, the better, right? Hey, I don't mind buying a new ball, just pop it. You be the first person, that'd be great. Yeah, but hard enough for it to bounce back. That's number one key, right? So if we can't do that, we'll go into a seated version if somebody can't do that. Seated is just lower to the ground, right? I don't have to rely on my legs to do that. So the same focus, you're gonna go up and slam down, up, slam down. You're gonna try to keep it close to you. They might have to bend over to reach it again, and that's okay, but it's still teaching that movement. And you don't have to focus on your balance now. On general population, super easy to do this. On older population, you might have to be next to them, and I would do it near a wall. I would do it near a wall just because when they lose their balance, they can go like this, right? I would start like that, or near a rack, near a wall, or as long as you're near them, right? That's a big one for sure. So then we got, second one would be bent knee version. So now instead of keeping your legs locked out, we're gonna go, all right, so Kyria, we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna pick up our ball, but this time we're gonna pick up our ball in a squat position. So we're gonna pick up our ball in a squat position. We're gonna bend our arms, straighten our arms overhead. And when you slam it, you're gonna go into a quarter squat, a squat position, and slam it again. You're gonna pick up the ball the same way, right? And it's gonna help you gain a second more momentum, because now you're just not using your upper body, using your lower body to shoot forward. The same thing applies. You still wanna try to get that ball right in front of them, right underneath them, right? That's the goal. Shoot the ball right underneath you. By that time, they should have built up the angle of the hands to be able to land right in front of you. The same thing goes. The more you bounce it, the more it should come back to you, right? Yeah, so that's the difference between straight leg and bent leg. You're gonna use your lower body too to help you get into that momentum, right?
Quick question for you. So like the cue for like the quarter squat position, do you just say that? Like
I say, yeah, let's go into a slightly bent knee, slight squat, not a full squat. You don't have to go into a full squat. Some people do, that's fine, I don't mind that.
I just didn't know if there's like a certain like cue that makes it easy to understand them.
Just don't lock out your legs, right? Because I tell them, hey, before you have your legs locked out, now we're gonna go into a small squat. Small squat. No, yeah, because a full squat, we will do a full squat in the next one. A Medball Slam will be a full squat. Exactly, the one that doesn't bounce for obvious reasons, right? So next one would be a Medball squat. So the only thing that changes here is now you're squatting every time. The only reason I said squat in the beginning is to pick up that ball. That's it. Not to after you slam it, you don't have to squat that low anymore. For this one's gonna be every one squat, right? So the way I teach this one is because it's a lot smaller. You're gonna have your feet in between your legs, right? I'm sorry, the ball in between your legs, between your feet. From here, I'm gonna reach down by squatting down to the ground. I'm not gonna hinge over. I'm gonna squat down to the ground, keep my chest up. I'm gonna grab that ball. I'm gonna stand up straight. I'm gonna curl that ball to my chest. I'm gonna overhead press my ball over my shoulders. And then from here, I am gonna go into a bent knee slam, essentially, right? So from here, I'm going up and down, and I'm shooting that ball between my legs. One key thing here is that if they shoot the ball away from them, don't have them reach the ball where they're at. Have them step forward and, again, get themselves underneath the ball. Because a lot of problems is like when you start doing this, they start going here and they forget how to squat, right? So just have them step towards the ball. It's a lot easier to teach. And eventually they'll get to how to slam the ball. It just takes some time, tactically speaking. But yeah, you're going up. So squat, curl, press, slam. Squat, curl, press, slam. And you're trying to slam that ball right in front of you, right between your feet, right? And then it continues once you start getting faster and faster, right? It just keeps going to a squat fully. It develops itself into a squat. Questions on that one? Kyria, you feel good with that one? Yeah? Okay. We're gonna start breathing hard here. So I'm gonna take a couple breaks. Okay, so the next one, oh, I'm sorry, that was seated. My bad. The one I just did was standing med ball. send to the floor. Seated med ball, send to the floor. We did dyno on the first one. This is the med ball version. So on this one, you are gonna have to hinge because you're seated. So it's this one. Right, so you're gonna have to hinge a little bit. I do expect them not to feel the lower back, but to probably work the lower back a little bit. We're gonna have to work lower back no matter what at some points. But like I said, as long as it's not pain and you're just working it, you're good. Just know that you're probably not gonna wanna do it a ton of them. Like, I don't wanna do 20 reps of this. It's gonna be a lot of lower back strain probably after 3 sets, right? Nothing changes. I'm curling, I'm pressing, I'm just not squatting. It's the only thing that we take out of it, right? I'm reaching, I'm curling, I'm pressing, I'm pushing, right? All right, so that was the seated med ball slams to floor. I just did the standing med ball slams to floor. Let's go over the seated dyna chest toss to coach. So on this one, if I'm the coach, I'm gonna be standing right in front of them. If they're facing this way, whatever it is, doesn't matter to me. But what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna be in front of them and I'm gonna tell them, hey, I'm gonna have you seated. I'm gonna have you grab this ball. You're gonna push it towards me as hard as you can. I'm gonna give it back to you. I'm just gonna literally hand it back to you, okay? So what I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna have one of you guys be my client, as I need 2 people to demonstrate this one. So go ahead and sit down, let's put your stuff away. All right, Brett, so what you're gonna try and do is you're gonna grab this ball for me. Actually, with the way I'll teach it to you, I'll teach it like if you weren't seated. So Brett, you're gonna sit right there, and all you're gonna try and do is you're gonna push that ball towards me. I'm gonna catch it for you, I'm gonna hand it back to you, right? So you're gonna be here, I want you to put your weight on your legs. There you go, lean a little bit forward, and I want you to toss that to me. There you go, all right, so now I want you to toss it a little bit harder, and then flick your wrist at the end. There you go, that's a lot better, nice man. Let's go ahead and get another 3. Good. Perfect, so that's a great first try, right? So on the second try, I'm gonna be like, hey, I don't want you to be, because a lot of people don't do it hard, being afraid for your sake, for the coach's sake. So now I'm gonna tell him, hey, I don't want you to be afraid of you hitting me. I'm used to catching balls at 100 miles an hour, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Don't worry about me, I'll catch it for you. As long as I tell him, as long as you throw it anywhere near here, I'll catch it. If you don't throw it near here, I won't catch it.
You usually stand that distance back?
It depends. Like if it's an older person, absolutely. If it's somebody I know is gonna throw it hard to me, I'll probably be like here. You know what I mean? So I can get ready.
I kind of figured.
Yeah, exactly. Let me think.
What did you say? You said weight forward.
Weight forward. Weight on your legs. You wanna make sure your legs are not just rocking back and forth. Weight on your legs. And then you're gonna try to extend your elbows all the way across. Extend your elbows, flick your wrist at the end. Right? Yeah. Let me just double check my notes. Yeah, so this one is it's definitely, we don't start with this one. We start normally standing version of this. But for somebody that's less coordinated, somebody that is older, this might be a good place to start, just for safety reasons. Make them used to that before you start getting them off the ground and standing, right? What's the next one?
Stack stance.
Okay, perfect. So now, chest toss, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So now, let's say, Kyria, you're my client. So I'm gonna be like, okay, Kyria, I'm gonna have you have one leg in front of the other. And is it coach assisted or it doesn't say anything?
Stack stance, dyna, chest toss, 2 coach.
2 coach, okay, yeah. So let's say I'm the wall, Kyria, I'm gonna be you. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lean on, I'm gonna have split stance. I'm gonna have one leg forward, one leg back. What I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna have you try to toss the ball as hard as you can towards me. It's gonna look like this, right? So you're gonna lean forward as you toss it. You're gonna push your arms forward and release with your wrist, with your fingertips, okay? So I'm gonna be there catching it for you, right? You as the coach, the way I say I try to catch it, I always have one arm low, one arm high. One arm to protect my face, one arm to protect my bottom. I'm gonna catch it like this. If it doesn't go like this, it's gonna go this way or this way, so I don't really care. But I'm gonna protect my face at all times. I'm gonna protect my hands at all times. Yeah, exactly, instead of like this, because like this, you can just land anywhere, right? Like this, I'm protecting myself. Sometimes it lands, if you don't expect it, it will land in your stomach, but that's not bad. That's better than my face or my, yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna have you do my client. Okay, so now I demonstrated towards you, so now I'm gonna have you do a stack stance. Okay, perfect, so you're gonna go ahead and toss that towards me. Perfect, you got it, nice. So I'm gonna start just by handing her the ball back. I'm not gonna toss her the ball back yet, right? There you go, way better, nice. So I want you to bend your legs more and now put more power into it. Much better, okay, so as you start getting better at this, eventually your back leg's gonna come off the floor. there's gonna be a lot more weight in your front leg, right? So go ahead and take a step and shoot. Nice, exactly, again.
Are you okay with them stepping into it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because that's how much more power that you create, right? So I want to get to that point, right? I'm teaching it just staggered. Once I start getting more and more power, I'm gonna toss it. Now I feel comfortable you throwing it back to me. I'm gonna toss it back to you, right? So go ahead and do it again. There you go. Here you go back. Exactly. Good. Here you go back. There you go. Exactly. So then you can start playing with it, right? So that's one way of doing it if you're doing one-on-one. But normally we have it do it against the wall, right? But you're still expecting the same effort, right? I don't know if that one comes next or at all, but I'll show you guys anyways. Oh yeah, next one's the wall. Okay, so the only thing that changes here is the wall is not gonna bounce it. It's gonna bounce it back as hard as you throw it to it. So if somebody's not that powerful, you're gonna step closer. If somebody's pretty powerful, you can step a little bit further back, right? So for example, all right, curious, what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna be in a staggered position. We're gonna start, let's say it's 3 sets, right, on our first set. All right, we're gonna start with just tossing it to the wall and catching it. Tossing it to the wall and catching it. I'm pretty far away from the wall technically because it's not bouncing that close. So I can step even further forward, right? I still have space to bounce it, I can catch it. It's more like if they have time to catch it because of coordination, right, at that point. That's number one. The first version is just staying staggered and you're completely extending your arm, catching it, right? Version number 2 would be, all right, I'm gonna have you step back and now I'm gonna step into it. Right, so I'm releasing all the weight in my front leg. I'm releasing all the weight in my front leg like you just did. You put a lot more power on the second half than the first half, right? But the one that matters the more is you're extending your elbows and you're flicking your wrist at the end. That's where the power is really coming from. The other part is just driving the body towards it, right? Let me think, am I missing anything? You don't want to have them fully start straight. You want to have them start in an athletic position, so knees are slightly bent, right? Knees are slightly bent. The back leg's going to extend as you're pushing forward. Let me think. Am I missing anything? Okay, problems. Let's go over problems with people with arthritic wrist. So people that have arthritic wrist, they're going to not be able to flick their wrist. Forget about that. So it's going to look like this. And that's okay. If they can toss it because I'm pushing like this, I'm not pushing like this. You see what I'm saying? So I'm pushing like this instead of pushing like this. It's gonna be a big difference in power. They're not gonna be able to create as much power here because there's only 3 joints working instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So just know that it's gonna feel a lot lighter. It's gonna look a lot lighter than throwing it like this than like this. I'm flicking my hands at the end here. I can't really flick my hands at the end here. I'm just flicking my palm, right? So just that's definitely gonna matter with arthritis, right? Do you feel okay about that one? I'm gonna skip real quick to, where's the one that I wanted to show you? Hold on. I don't even know if we have the 5-way. Well, we have a 5-way version or a fast dyna chest toss. In that version, on a 5-way or a fast dyna, you're gonna be much closer to the wall. So you're gonna be here in a squat position, and you're not gonna extend your arms fully. Right? So you're gonna almost extend your arms, but this one's more like for tempo.
Rapid fire.
Yes, exactly, rapid fire, exactly. That's gonna be a fast dyna chest toss. Okay. Fast dyna chest toss. It's not there. Yeah, it's not there, and it's also another one that we do a 5-way. A 5-way is gonna be a rapid fire, but on 5 different angles. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So my posture stays the same. It's just my arm angles that are gonna be different, right? So that's a 5-way dyna slam. We don't have this one here, I think. Yeah, no, because this is just more like a combination of everything, so it's not listed. Okay, so. Oh yeah, we have it in a lot of people right now, actually. Yeah, a lot of people love that one. Okay, so we go into wall, and we're gonna start teaching lateral dyna slams. So, no release. So the way we teach a lateral slam is we're just gonna tap the wall, right? So, all right, curious. So what I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna have you face your hips towards me, right? What we're gonna try and do is rotate, so counter rotate towards one side. I'm gonna keep my elbows bent, and I'm gonna rotate towards the wall. All right, rotate, anticipating the move, then rotate towards the wall. So what I wanna see is the counter rotation. That's what's gonna get them ready for the following move, right? So if you see, most people will do this, right? They're not gonna counter rotate. What I want them to do is I want them, the way I see it is my hips are facing that way. I want my shoulders to be facing 90 degrees away from that when they're starting to move. Yep, exactly like that, right? So I wanna see this. It's almost like a rubber band. All right, I want a rubber band, I want this to stop me. Not just my shoulder to stop me, I want my core to stop me, right? If I'm moving back. So obviously it also depends on, what do you call it? Spinal flexibility, shoulder flexibility, so it depends a lot on that. But for the most part, you wanna see a counter movement. If you're not seeing any counter movement, they're not gonna develop much power on it, right? So the first one is just a tap. You're tapping the wall. You're getting them ready to release that ball. But you're working on getting them to rotate as much as you can towards the wall and away from the wall. Towards the wall and away from the wall, right? All right, so then, okay, we're gonna not do squats. I'm gonna show you that one, but I'll keep with the rotational slam. The second variation, the one after that below it, is gonna be, now I'm gonna step back a little bit. I'm gonna still rotate, but I'm gonna release, and I'm gonna release softly, because I wanna learn this movement. Arms don't have to be locked out. Arms don't have to be fully flexed, somewhere in the middle. What we wanna do is cradle the ball below it, right? Cradle the ball below it so you can have a good grip. It can look like this. It can look like this. It's more comfort at that point, right? I can slam a lot harder than this myself than I can like this, right? But I am pushing through both my arms at the end, not just one or the other. A lot of people tend to push off the back one and it looks like this, right? That's a whole different movement, right? We're trying to teach both hands to release together, right? But don't have them slam for power on this. Once you start going from tap to release, just have them try to get that momentum going with the rotation, because that's gonna be a lot more important. If you can get that, the other one's gonna be easy. Any questions on that? I don't know if I'm going too fast.
No, you're good. This is a lateral.
Yeah, it's going right underneath.
Pivot.
Yep, release and pivot, exactly. So, and then, yeah, so the pivot part is gonna come from your back foot, so, right? You're gonna try to pivot your back foot, but don't even focus on that until they have the rotation of the shoulders done. That's gonna be number one key. If you can rotate your shoulders, you're gonna automatically get the pivot. If you can't rotate your shoulders, don't even mention the pivot. It's not worth it yet, right? Okay, going back left, the squat stance dyna chest toss to wall is gonna be the one I just showed you. You're gonna be in a squat stance, knees bent, hips bent. So you have less momentum to push off from. Here, I can push off my back leg a little bit. Here, I don't. I'm just using upper body only. Nice. This one, you can still stay. It just really depends on how hard they can slam, right? If they can't slam that hard, stay closer and you won't be able to extend your arms fully, right? If they can slam pretty hard, you're gonna stay further back. You're gonna rely on their power to get the ball back to them. If I step too far back, unless I'm gonna throw it up and it's gonna lob back towards me, that's the only way it's gonna happen. Otherwise I'm too far back, but you're not ever that far away from the wall. You can also do the coach if you really want to. It's up to you if you have one client or two. If you have one client, you can play around with him, unless you're setting something up. If you're setting something up, obviously I would just always let them hit the wall. All right, so then we go into, so on the left-hand side, we're now playing with different variations with your legs, right? So the next one would be a half kneel, right? Chest toss, it says. So a half kneel chest toss, I'm gonna be nice and upright, so now I don't have any momentum with my legs. Let me here. So nothing changes from here up, it's just my knees are down. I don't really have momentum with my legs to push forward, right? So it just becomes an upper, just like the squat one, it becomes way more upper body focus. Now I'm not relying on my legs as much to create power. Oh, and then the one I asked you to do earlier, that's the following one. Dyna chest toss with leg drive, right?
Gotcha, yep.
Yep, so you're gonna release the back leg. So at this point, you're almost taking a full step forward. You're continuing on, right? So that's a lot more power. So you're gonna be here, you're catching it again, right? So it's just creating more power by driving through that forward leg. That back leg's gonna come off the floor. You're not gonna sit on anymore. Yeah, your front leg's the one producing all the power. Questions on that? It's just creating more momentum as we're going through it.
Question for you on that then. Do you switch up what leg they have for?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, for sure. Yes, make sure you switch it up. We do good and that side, not just the good side, for sure. Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's gonna be a massive difference. And same thing on the lateral ones. Same thing on the lateral ones. Oh man, you see a difference? You're killing it, and then, oh shit, it looks like crap. What are you doing? But the more we do it, the more it's gonna be more common ground, right? More, you're gonna get used to it.
I already know, like, my step-ins. So
I would imagine, for sure. Absolutely. Okay, so now we got a rainbow slam. So a rainbow slam just means a semicircle over your head, right? So think about like a halo over your head, right? So we're gonna start with grabbing the ball, holding it in our hands. You're gonna go up or sideways around your head, slam it down. Up around your head, slam it down. Your back foot's gonna pivot every time, all right? So my back foot's pivoting, and I'm putting as much power as I can into it, as hard as I can. You're gonna bend your knees and your hips, not just your hips, or it's not just your, not just your hips, your knees too. I wanna fall into a half squat, a quarter squat, whatever you wanna call it, but I do want my knees to bend. It's not a full lunge, right? I'm not dropping into a lunge, that's too low, but enough for me to get a slightly more momentum with my legs, right? The more extension you get over your head, the more you're able to slam down. If you don't extend your chest fully, so if you're here, it's gonna be different than if you're here, because your thoracic extension is gonna be a lot better. It's gonna produce a lot more power. If I'm extended fully, if I don't never extend my thoracic, if I keep my arms really close and never extend my thoracic, I'm not gonna have as much power. Questions on that one? No, just try and rotate side to side. You're gonna do, if somebody isn't, I usually have them alternate on this one. If you really wanted to, you can just do one side and keep doing one side and then do the other side, but I usually have them alternate on this one. Okay, so then we got the rower. So we teach the rower for power a lot. We have people do like 10 or 20 pulls for power. That's what we say in the program, right? So let's go over that one real quick. Paul, how's the back feeling? What? Doing which one? Oh, come on, man. All right. So, for power, we would have taught the rower first, but we haven't taught the rower at all, right? The way we usually teach the rower is there's 4 steps to a pull in the rower. You have your loading phase, which you're gonna be with your knees and hips bent, and you're close here, you're grabbing the weight. You gotta teach that the rope is the one putting all the power into it, right? So if you're extending your body, but there's no weight in the rope, you're not creating anything, right? I wanna teach that pulling this is gonna be where the power comes from, right? So it's not about moving just your whole body away from this, it's about pulling the rope with you at all times and staying stiff, right? So I'm gonna teach extend my legs first, bend my elbows second, bend my elbows third, curl my legs last. It's a 4-point movement, right? If you think about it and you break down the movement. It looks very mechanical when I start teaching that, but then people just get used to it, right? If I can teach, keep your shoulders back, that's perfect. If they have a slight hump in the shoulders forward, that's okay. Like, I don't necessarily need them to be nice and upright, especially if somebody has lower back pain. They'll probably feel this too much because they're too thoracically extended. So let's say we've gone through this. I started teaching this and extend, pull, relax, come back, right? Extend, pull, relax your hands, come back. From here, I'm gonna start teaching power. So at this point, I'll teach them what this all means, right? This means strokes per minute on the bottom left. This means meters, and this means our pace. So for us to have really strong power, let's say I'm gonna work on getting 5 pulls really hard on this one, right? So I'm gonna tell that person, hey, what I want you to do is I want you to get this middle number, the biggest one, as low as possible. this stroke count's probably gonna be pretty high, but I'm not gonna worry about it. And then I wanna see how many meters you can get in one stroke. So from here, I'm gonna take a breath. I'm gonna exhale as I go back. Right? So I can take my time coming back. But this is a really high count because I just went really hard, right? But I'm only measuring one at a time. All right, so that's 149 to 158. I'm gonna use my whole body to come back. Notice how I'm using my legs and my arms, right, together. What I don't wanna do is, this will be just my arms, right? And this will be just my legs, right? So I don't wanna just do my legs only. This will be just pulling with my legs. I can still get pretty hard pulling my legs, right? I'm not even using my arms to finish. And this would be just my arms. People get tired, they start going like this, right? We're gonna get a combination of both. That's why upright, extend and pull. Upright, extend, pull. Just like a deadlift, you wanna be loaded right before you start. The problem with the deadlift is that you won't, like, the bar won't move up. This will start creeping up because it's just not as heavy, right? So you gotta know, okay, I wanna be able to stay stiff and then pull, right? So we do use the rower to teach a lot of power just because it's non-weight bearing, so it's great. But it's one of the hardest things that we can teach power with too at the same time, because people are so used to using it for endurance, especially somebody that comes from like a Orange Theory environment, something CrossFit. Most of the times they're used to you doing 1,000, 2,000 meters and they don't know how to make it for a sprint or power pulls instead of a long endurance set, right? Let me see. Questions on the rower? Oh, I guess another thing I didn't mention on the setup for the rower is your foot. So you want to make sure they're like midline of the foot. So not in the middle, yeah, with a strap. You want to have it like right under the toes, basically. A lot of people ask me, is it okay for my heels to come off the ground? Yeah, for sure it's okay. Right? Especially if you have tight ankles, it's gonna definitely happen no matter what. But you wouldn't be able to come close even if you kept the heels on all the time. That's why these straps go up and down, right? That's normal, it's okay. We always have it set up at 10. I mean, you can set it down for sure, but if you're teaching power, you want it set up at 10. We can also convert these just a little bit more out of the rower. We can change the units. So we can change it to watts and calories. So sometimes we'll do rowing sets for calories. We don't really use watts, but we use meters and calories a lot, right? Have you guys used a Concept 2 before? Yeah? Okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good standard brand. Okay, so going back to our number 9, we got high kneel. So we went from half kneeling, we're gonna go to high kneel. So once again, we're just changing the grip and we're reducing the momentum we can use with our legs. In a half kneel, you have a lot more momentum than with a high kneel. It's gonna feel almost like a squat stance, China chest toss. It's gonna be here. You could lean back a little bit and push if you wanted to, right? Extend the hips more. It's up to you to teach that. I just like to teach upper body first. Let's get this movement first, and then when we're ready, we're gonna push through the whole hips, right? So nothing changes, you're gonna be on both knees down. That's the main reason. Everything else, cueing wise, it's gonna stay the same. Dyna shuffle, lateral slam. Okay, so what we're gonna try and do is, we're gonna now do one slight shuffle. So we're gonna go, when we go over lower body, we're gonna go over shuffles, but a shuffle is, right? That's it. So what we're gonna try and do is be far enough. We have to figure out that distance. Somebody has too much power, they might have to be further. Somebody's really long, they might have to be further. Somebody is short, might be closer. I usually like to go like, okay, we started the wall. Like, where would it be close? Okay, this one. So I'm gonna take 1, 2 steps for sure, at least. And from here, I'm gonna go 1, 2. So after your first shuffle, you have to wind back. Just like we taught the tap on the wall. Wind back as much as you can. So 1, wind back, shoot. All right, 1 shuffle. On the mid, after you do the 1, you're gonna get ready and your back foot's almost gonna come off and everything puts on your front leg, right? So once again, at full speed, it looks like, right? So as much power as you get. And the further you wind back, the more power you're gonna push through. If you don't wind back at all, it's just you don't have not as much power. You're gonna go with what you have in the momentum, right? So you just gotta make sure that you see the shuffle, you see the rotation, counter rotation, and then the release, right? If they don't catch the ball, that's fine. I'm not worried about it. I let it go to the ground and then step back. But what I'm looking for is the release of power.
Do you, I think you kind of answered this earlier. Do you do this cradle every time, or does it matter?
So I want them to release with both hands, for sure. So cradle, yes. We will teach them this version eventually, but definitely cradle for the specific one, yes, for sure. You understand what he's asking? Okay. Yeah. And like I said, I haven't gone according to his programming on this stuff yet. So I'm not exactly sure where he would stand in terms of progressions and regressions on this stuff. Yeah. It's just stuff that we mostly use here. He dives in deep into like specifics of everything, right? But I'm not at that point. Okay, so then we go into the skier. Same thing as a rower. The skier could be used for a power set. So let me come over here and show you guys. So what we're gonna do is, have you guys used a skier before?
Yeah, I did it during my session.
Okay, sweet. Have you clear?
Maybe miss Montana more.
What's that?
It said it made me miss skiing at Montana.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I always make sure I push it up to the first level when we're doing it for power. So what I'm gonna have, once again, we haven't gone over how to ski. So I'll go over pretty quickly here how to ski, and we'll go over it again later when we have to go over it. So when you're teaching how to ski is depending obviously your height of the body, you're always gonna start with your hands as close as you can to the what do you call it, this top things, the wheels, right? Yep, the wheels, exactly. You're gonna keep your body pretty close. So everybody tries to back away from it. You're not gonna hit yourself, just be aware of where you're at. But for your power specifically, you have to stay pretty close. From here, you're gonna bend your elbow slightly, and you're gonna bring it right to the sides of your hip, right? So once I start building it up, I'm using my arms, I'm bending my elbow slightly, I'm pushing it back. I just don't wanna bottom out. I don't wanna hear this. Hold on, I'll show you what it sounds like. You hear that? Like that extension? I don't want to get to that point. It's going to ruin the machine faster. So you want to make sure that they're not bottoming out. A lot of people try to go as low as I can to a squat. No, it's a little tiny dip. It's not a big squat at all. Okay, you're hinging your hips more than anything, right? Okay, so the same thing, the machine has a pace clock at the top right, a distance clock for meters in the middle on the right, watts, calories, and the time total. We're looking at the pace clock. We're gonna do, let's say I'm gonna do five heavy pulls. So it's gonna look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. That's power pulls, each one at a time. So essentially it's a delayed slam, right? My arms are going further back, and there's more weight on this than a ball. So it's a delayed slam, but it's almost the same thing as teaching a ball slam. Same exact motion. You're pushing down. You're stopping a little earlier, right through your hips. I'm looking at this to be a low number on the top right, which is the pace. I don't really care about how much distance I get because I'm not measuring that yet. Just the top right number to be, and you can take as long as you want back up, right? So if you want to do 5 really, really hard ones, you can do. Take a break. Right, you can go as slow as you want, as long as each one is as hard as possible every time. I go up on my tippy toes here. You don't have to. I like to create extra momentum. You can stay here if you wanted to, but I like to go up because I'm used to jumping like that too, right?
You have to grip it with this facing this way, right?
You don't have to.
Okay.
I mean, I prefer to for comfort. This is not as comfortable as this one, so that's definitely something to think about.
It's not like a necessity.
It's not a necessity, no, because they wouldn't know otherwise. Yeah. But I mean, if you want to be technical about it, yes, you always want to have the thicker grip for sure around the back. Questions on that? No? Feel pretty good with it?
Is there? So I was taught with a lot of hinging.
Yeah, you can hinge a lot.
Okay with a lot.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, it's more of a hinge than a squat.
Yeah.
For sure. So you can definitely teach a lot of hinging. It just depends on like if they have it just depends on body, right? So like, I just like to squat better, so I like to go into a squat pattern more than a hinge pattern. if you see them doing this, it's completely okay. For sure. But just don't bottom out. Your goal is not to bottom out. If that's making you bottom out, I'll probably try to make you a squat, right? Because you're probably gonna push it further back in a hinge position with your hands, right? Let me see what's next. You're out?
Yeah, see you, man.
All right, man. Have a great day. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so half knee. Let's go to the Dynas lateral slam. Okay, so now we're going to go, just like we did in the chest toss, we're going to go into different positions on a lateral slam. So what does it say? Inside knee out, right? Inside knee up. Yeah, so essentially, if I'm gonna slam to my right side, my right leg's gonna be up, right? So I'm gonna be flexed in my whole body. I'm gonna be nice and, one big thing about power is you wanna be at some point really stiff, right? And jumps is when after you jump, you're gonna be really stiff. On a slam, it's gonna be before you start, you're gonna start creating that stiffness through your body and rotating all the way across. So I'm gonna be here, I'm still creating the ball. What I don't want to do is I don't want to let my knee move, my front knee move everywhere. I want to make sure that that's stiff, that's down. You see the knee move everywhere, they're not stable. So keep that knee stable and rotate across the knee. That way you're only using your upper body, right? You're only using your upper body. If you start seeing this, they're going to feel really wobbly coming back in. So you want to make sure that front leg is really stable. Same thing as the other one I said. You're going to cradle it a little bit. You're not necessarily just going with one arm, right? This would look like, oh shit, like that. So you want to try to make sure they're using both arms pushing across. Nothing else changes from the other cueing, right? You're still staying tight. You're releasing at the end. You're catching the ball again. Yeah, questions on that? You're just not creating as much momentum. Now you're relying all on your thorax to be able to create that power. Now we got standing dyna overhead slam. So next one up, we're gonna be here. Let me just make some room over here. So we're gonna be here, we're gonna be overhead, right? And we're gonna slam it towards the ground. So it's our first version of overhead, right? I am trying to make it hit around my hip level or below. You don't have to hit that high up, okay? Let me think. I usually try to aim to like the second or third brick on the bottom. That's where I wanna hit, right? So this is just, you're staying in the same place, you're not taking a step, and you're slamming overhead. If you wanna make it more powerful, you would take a step, but you have to go further back before you take a step forward. I forget if that one's next or not. No, so yeah, so let's talk about that one real quick. So basically what I would do is I wanna make it a little bit harder, create more power. I would start here, take a step, come back, start here, take a step with the other side, right? But I'm just leaning, I'm putting all my weight into the front leg, right? That's what makes it a little slightly different. Like I said, these are already more advanced versions, so we usually wouldn't go with many of these anymore for our general population, but our older population might, or I'm sorry, our more athletic population might. All right, we got half kneel down and overhead slams to the wall, so then it becomes taking the legs out of it. We're gonna be here, right? Same thing. Staying close to the ground, connected as hard as you can with your upper body, right? Hands overhead, extending your thorax, and then release. All of these, you're definitely starting to put your spine in a compromised position. You're gonna start arching a lot, something we stay away from. But we have to be able to arch and not feel like we're gonna hurt ourselves in anything in life. So we have to start building that. I didn't even mention that though. I didn't mention that we have to arch. All I say is get your hands overhead and toss. Yep, exactly. I don't mention because some people are very aware of being arched and they don't want to be an arch at any point. So if it starts, oh, I feel my lower back. All right, then what I'll say is don't reach far back behind you. I'll stop him from arching that much, but I won't take the lift away, right? I'll start doing that. Okay, so one arm med ball chest toss to wall. This is the one we start. This is the one we start doing one arm. So it's almost like a shot put. So at this point, we're gonna be both legs are facing forward, the hips are facing forward. You're gonna be one arm, and you're gonna be shooting forward with a med ball, right? So it's this way, right? So I'm shooting as far as I can. I'm rotating that side, and then releasing right? So this is one of those weighted ball programs right here. Just a lot smaller of a ball for you guys. Yeah, so you're gonna do it on both, anything like that on one arm, you're gonna try to do it always on both arms. It's gonna say each, most likely. There's gonna be like anything. There's gonna be one hand that's way more understanding than the other. They might not even be able to measure that. It might end up over there. You just have to get used to it. The lightest med ball we have is 10 pounds. Just be aware of that. It might be pretty heavy for some people. If you can't do that, we might have to do a 6-pound dyna. It's just gonna bounce back, right? So it's gonna be back. Same thing, but with just slightly softer and bigger ball. So you have to make sure you have the ball underneath you so you can balance it, right? Or with the other hands, what I mean. Lots of rotation. You're still gonna rotate, and you're gonna release. Flick your wrist at the end, like we talked about all the other ones. Somebody that has a lot of arthritic pain or wrist pain, they're just gonna toss without flicking the wrist at the end, right? So it's gonna toss, just keeping the weight of the ball forward. It's gonna look like this instead of like this, right? Questions on that one? No? Once you guys start feeling it and demonstrating it, it'll be a lot different. Yep. Okay. Oh, my bad. This first one's no rotation, so you're not rotating. It's my bad. So you're here, you're here, you're here. You're here. Rotation would be second version, like after getting this one right. Okay? Just make sure you identify that difference. If somebody can already move to rotation, go for it. Absolutely, you're more than welcome to. All right, so this variation is a lot harder than people think. It's a single leg dyna slam to floor, so an RDL to release. So I'm gonna start here, right? I'm gonna show you from an angle. Let me start from this angle. So I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be up and slam, right? So it's counter movement, right? So up, slam, right? So I just have to, it's just really hard to balance, right? Yeah. So I step my foot out every time, even for myself when I do it. But you're just hinging through one leg only, right? It's gonna be definitely one of those. It's gonna be a lot harder on one side than the other. People have a lot more balance on one side than the other, right? Let that chest come down as they're throwing it, right? Let them keep their chest up. Let it come down with the ball. Just balance on that one. If you can't do that, a big one that what's that regression of an RDL? Single leg RDL.
So what's a regression?
Oh, a single leg RDL.
Double legs.
Okay, between. Stack stance. Stack stance, right? So you can definitely do a stack stance, right? So it's gonna look like, right? So stack stance, if you can't get them to balance, go stack stance, put more weight in the front leg, see how they feel with the back leg, and then try it again, right? All right, have we gone over squats and presses? You guys might have done a shoulder press. You did a push press, right?
Push press. Yeah.
You did push presses? Okay, what's the difference between a push press and a squat to press? What do you think the difference is? It's a very minor difference.
Just squat down a little further.
Exactly. So in a push press, you only have to really squat like a quarter squat. On a squat to press, you're gonna try to squat all the way down and push all the way up, right? That's it. Nothing else different. You're still driving your legs down to the ground and using the momentum of your legs to take the weights out of your arms, right? Try not to, you don't wanna break it down into movements. It's not this, right? It's not this and then this. It's using the momentum and then drive up. Like you're gonna try to hit the ceiling, right? So a squat all the way down. As you're driving up, as soon as you hit the more than halfway point, you start pushing your arms all the way up. You might go into your toes. It's okay if you go into your toes. It's okay if you go into your toes. I wouldn't make that a big deal as long as you're balancing. If you're losing your balance, then I might tell you, hey, don't go that high up on your toes. If they're unbalancing, it might be one of two things. They're too powerful, so just give them higher weight, and they'll control that. You won't be able to do that if you have a lot of weight on you. And if you can see a good transition, definitely push them up in weight. Just be careful with their back and that lower back on prior problems. A lot of things, it's like, for example, I'm assuming that you might do one of these. A lot of arching on your back. So you want to be careful. I might put you on plates on this still, so you can push your butt down to the ground, right? All right, so that's our squat to press. Then we got then our hip banded explosive push-ups. Do you guys remember that one? We went over it a little bit. We had, no, that's gonna be from the top.
It's gonna be a band.
So it's gonna be on the band around your hips from this guy.
Okay.
Do you remember that one? So we're gonna be, let me show you what that looks like. So you're gonna put this band in the low bar for now. I'm gonna put it around my hips. And we talked about, you can do this from the hips or from the chest. We just are used to using the hips, right? So you're here, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Just taking weights away from you, right? So what you're teaching is, at this point, you gotta assume they can stay stiff from their shoulders down to their legs. If they can't stay stiff and they're arching all the way to get down there, they're not ready for this yet, right? So work on stiffness from the shoulders down, and then your arms are gonna be doing all the work, right? We're not getting our legs off the ground yet. We're just gonna work on our upper body, right? Flick your wrist at the end if you can. If not, just push from your wrist. If you flick your wrist at the end, it's just gotta be careful landing. You don't land on your fingers. You gotta land on your wrist, right? Flick, but land on your wrist, at the bottom of your wrist, or your palm. Questions on that one? Explosive, right? So once we start seeing a lack of depth, they're just doing it to do it, I would cut it off. I would try to get them less reps, for sure. All right. This is the first time we're going over kettlebell swings, right? Yeah, perfect. Let's go. This one's gonna take a little bit of time just to reintroduce it. I'm gonna bring a kettlebell. All right, so I'm not sure, you guys have a pretty strong background on kettlebells? I think you do.
I like it.
You like kettlebells? You use it, yeah. Okay, so the way we teach kettlebells, we teach somewhat of a hike on the first rep. So I'm gonna show you all the drills that we might work with somebody before we start doing a kettlebell swing to make sure they understand what they're supposed to do. It's definitely more for us of a hinge pattern than a squat pattern, right? So what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna have our legs wide. We're gonna have the kettlebell in front of us and we're gonna start with our elbows locked out. We're gonna try to bend that kettlebell in half, right? Bend that kettlebell in half and we're starting here. When we usually teach this, the first thing we'll do is we'll have people swing it back and forth in a hinge position to make sure they feel comfortable with that, right? So I'm here, I'm gonna hike the kettlebell behind me, I'm gonna stay low. I wanna make sure people feel comfortable with this. So this forces me to do two things. Either I'm gonna round my back and it's gonna look really weird, or I'm gonna keep my legs, I'm gonna work on my legs bearing most of the weight where my back doesn't round, right? So it's gonna look like so it most likely means that if you're feeling really uncomfortable, you don't know how to use your legs for this, right? And it's all coming from the hips, so it is gonna be a lot of legs, apart from the shoulders. So we're gonna be here, let's get about 10 swings to the bottom. Does that hurt your back? No? Okay, great. So now the second step would be, all right, so now that we're used to swinging at the bottom, we're gonna hike it to us. Once we hike it, on a second pull, we're gonna pull it up with our chest up, right? So we're gonna start here, I'm gonna bend that kettlebell in half, I'm gonna hike it behind me, and then I'm gonna pull up. Hike it behind, and then it's gonna be the same thing we're working on, but coming from your hips this time. Okay? One big thing I teach is shoulders, lats tight. If you don't keep your lats tight, this is gonna get harder and harder on your arms, right? I wanna make sure it's explosive on your hips, right? So one of those things that I really look for is somebody doing this or is somebody doing this, right? I don't wanna arch my back to get my hips extended. I'm gonna squeeze my butt to get my hips extended. You notice that almost everybody that we teach or reteach the kettlebell swing, they're used to arching their back at the end. That's where it's coming from. It's just like, okay, how can we get them to not arch their back? Okay, what cues do we use? Tighten up your core at the top, rib cage down, pull your hips in, tighten up or squeeze your butt at the top. There's so many people, and even somebody that did it at one point, let it go for 2 or 3 months, then does it again, they might forget that again. So you're gonna have to reteach it every time. It's a very specific movement. Most people don't get.
Press forward, not
Yep.
staying straight all the way up.
You wanna stand straight all the way up, you just don't wanna arch, right? So yeah, you wanna stand straight all the way up. And you're gonna keep in line with your hips. You're not gonna go that high up with your kettlebell, right? We stop right at your eyesight, and you're using the momentum of it going down to let it swim back and up, swim back and up. Swing back and up, right? For guys, this might be weird keeping it really close to the groin, but you wanna make sure they come down to their groin, let the hips come forward, come back, and you're using that momentum to push the hips back up, right? Just be careful watching them arch. One thing I always ask is, how did that feel in your back? You feel it all? No? Great. You did feel it all? Okay, I need you to think about keeping your lats tight. One thing that we really learn in the deadlift and the single leg deadlift is the fact that most people, when they're at the bottom, they have a really hard time retracting their lats. They go like this. So most single leg deadlifts you see like this. And if you're already teaching like that, getting weight is gonna look like that, the same thing. You wanna teach tight lats. If you have tight lats from the beginning and you're already teaching in a single leg RDL, you're teaching in an RDL weighted, by the time they get to kettlebell swings, it's gonna be super easy. If you're not teaching that yet, it's gonna be really hard to reteach everything that you just didn't teach, right? So that's what we try to start people in a single leg or double leg hinge to keep really tight lats, because if I keep my tight lats at the bottom, I'm gonna be using those lats the whole time, much more than my lower back, right? That's gonna protect your lower back. Your lats will protect your lower back. They're massive. Question on that? So a couple of drills you can do. You can just have them swing forward and back while at the bottom in a hinge position, right? And then try to work on their patterns. So you can record. I like to record a lot of people from the side. I can show them things over and over again. You can see a lot of people like, oh, I didn't think I was arching my back that much. Well, I didn't see it either because you're going so fast. But now if I slow it down on my phone, it's a lot easier. So don't be afraid to record people, and then tell them, hey, I'm not gonna post this, but I wanna record just to show you what I see, right? A lot of people are okay with posting, but some people are not. So you have to know what you're gonna use that for, right? Let's see. Oh wait, I was a high, damn. I skipped over there, I didn't do a high pull, yeah. God dang it, I saw the wrong thing. Okay, high pull, so it's a lot easier to kettlebell swing. You're gonna start with your, just like a kettlebell deadlift, the kettlebell's gonna be right between your legs. You're gonna squat down, and it's gonna be one of those that you wanna drive your legs up, your upper body follows. Don't start pulling with your arms right away, right? So I'm gonna squat down, I'm gonna keep my arms stiff, I'm gonna squat up, and as I'm squatting up, my transition would be here, right? So I'm using my legs to help me drive the kettlebell up. I'm driving it over my face. Elbows nice and high, elbows higher than your shoulders. You're driving it to your head, right? If the kettlebell is too light, they might hit their chin. Just be aware of that. Coach them away from that. If you're gonna hit your chin, you'd rather go in front of you rather than your chin. Don't hit your chin. It is a very cardiovascular exercise, so it'll probably be drained the first time they do it. And just be aware that you want to try to stay away from a lot of lower doses. So, hey, when you get down, don't arch your back. Get down into a normal squat that we worked on. Nice neutral spine, and then from here, up, right? Up. And I'm also not arching my back to get up there. I'm just locking on my hips, my hands follow. That's it. Okay, so then dumbbell push press, we talked about, is not a full squat. You're here and you're pushing up, right? Single arm push press, the same thing. You can have one arm out and you're gonna go up, right? So it's gonna look like, I'm just gonna do it with a kettlebell. So if I'm doing a single arm push press, I'm gonna keep my other hand out for balance. I'm gonna drive my knuckles up, so my knuckles shouldn't be like that. My knuckles are gonna stay in front of me. I'm gonna do a rack version of it like we talked about, right? So this will be my rack front squat version of my kettlebell. Down, slightly dip, and then back up and explode up. Down, slight dip, explode up. So I'm using the momentum of my legs to help me get a higher weight off the ground, right? It's okay. It's basically, you're trying to make them really good at cheating on this one. Really, really good at cheating. How did I get that most weight over my head while using all my body? That's your goal. Okay, so then from here, an explosive push-up would just be without the band. So we're trying to focus on doing the same motion. Your arms should feel really light. We can start with your legs on the ground. Eventually, your legs can come off the ground together with your arms, right? So that makes it a lot more difficult when everything stays tight and it jumps up together. Let's see. One arm kettlebell swings, same idea. So on this one, it's a little bit different because you can change your grip around to whatever you want. I've seen kettlebells being like this. I've seen kettlebells being like this. So you can change your grip if you need to. I normally stick to keeping your hand in this position. Sometimes I'll turn it in and go up, right? So I might do this, I sometimes just keep it here. It's whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever can make your lats stay really tight, right? But your lat's gonna be the one providing the movement. As long as your lat's tight, it's good. If your lat's not tight, you're probably arching your back a lot to get up there. You gotta make sure your lat stays tight on both the double arm and single arm. Let me think. Same thing, you can start with the same drill, right? The same drill would be here. Single arm. This is working, this is for me as a coach, I'm looking to the side, I'm seeing, okay, are they using their lat or are they're relaxing their shoulder and letting their whole arm swing? So this is with me, my lat relaxed, I'm not using my lat. This is with me, my lat's really tight. I can feel my whole body engaging more, my lat tight, right? If you got that, then you can go all the way down. If not, work on keeping the lat stiff. How do I increase that lat stiffness? And that's what we try to do, all those scap retractions, all that, to start understanding what that lat tight being is like. And then we got barbell push press. So we got, let me grab one real quick. The only thing about the barbell push press is if you don't have the shoulder mobility, that's why dumbbells are better. That's really the only thing that's better about it, because barbell's gonna be way easier to push a higher amount of weight than dumbbells will ever be. So I'm gonna unrack my barbell, I'm gonna have it a chin high like I had a front squat or back squat. I'm gonna step back. So from here, I'm gonna have a little bit further than shoulder width apart, because if I have it too close, it's gonna slam my knuckles in. Further enough, I can actually land my knuckles. And it depends, if they don't feel comfortable, bring it back in, right? You're trying to find a good stance for them. Like for example, I know that, actually I'll show you. I can lock out. This is a lot harder for me to lock out than, it's gonna be a lot easier, right? A little bit wider for me is a little bit easier because I have really tight shoulders. So for me, this might be a more comfortable depth, right? Same thing, a slight squat, and then I'm pushing up to the ground. But what I wanna see from the side is my hands on top of my head. If I'm looking at the whole body, technically my wrist should be in line with my heels. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, good. So technically also, my hips should be in line with my wrist and my heels. Is that correct? Yeah, hopefully. Almost, not really? Yeah? Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. My wrist to be on top of my heels and my butt to be in the middle of that. That's a locked out position. If one of those lines are off, something's off and they're gonna feel it probably in the lower back or their shoulders, one or the other. But that also means that they have to have enough mobility to do that. If they don't have the shoulder mobility to even press up or overhead, then you just know that it might look a little bit forward. That's okay. Either way, we can still teach it knowing that they have tight shoulder tension. It's just gonna look different, and they have to know that. What I would do before any of this, if somebody has tight shoulders, is just open up their shoulders like a wall pat down. We talked about opening up their shoulders like this, right? Trying to get that full elbow locked out. As you're pushing down, it's gonna feel the same way as when I'm overhead, right? So I just like to do a couple of openers for myself too. Another thing I don't teach is, okay, once you get to the top, don't come down and bend your legs at the same time, right? You don't wanna do that. You wanna extend, let it come down, and then reset, right? Extend, reset. And same thing, a lot of people in the last rep, they'll do this. They'll go, this is my 10th rep, for example. I go up, I'll step forward as I'm bringing down the weight to put it down. No. You finish your last rep, you bring it down, and then you walk forward after you finish, right? Don't let them slack off on that, because if the weight gets heavy, it gets harder and harder to control,